Alexa Grasso is taking on Viviane Araujo at UFC Vegas 62, and I'll have the betting tips, technical breakdown, and predictions for you. Hey guys, welcome back to Ascendant MMA. This week, we're back after a week off. We got one more week to UFC 280, so that's kind of getting us through. But yeah, we've got actually a decent little UFC Apex card. There's a few matchups that are actually pretty interesting. The main event's not the greatest, but I do think it'll be a pretty exciting card. We're going to run through a few different fights here. We're going to break them down from a more technical angle, maybe provide some betting tips too. But stay tuned at the end as we'll go through a few other things. So yeah, let's get into the first fight. So the first fight we're going to break down on this card is Alonzo Menifield taking on Misha Cirkunov. So let's start with Cirkunov here. He's a pretty interesting fighter to break down, mainly as a submission or bust kind of fighter. He's got just a notoriously bad gas tank who, he fades very, very heavily after the first round. And he's kind of the epitome of a kill or be killed fighter with only one fight his whole UFC career needing to see the judges' decisions, and that was against Jotko, which, makes enormous sense. So he generally fights out of southpaw, very heavy set on that front leg, and he's kind of just slow and non-reactive. When he fights, when he throws, his head doesn't really move, and in terms of technique, he kind of looks like he muscles a lot of his shots. He's definitely partial to kind of move into range really unintelligently with his head on center line, and he gets caught because of this. We've seen him caught multiple times. He actually has a pretty powerful and technically pretty nice rear body kick, which is a perfect strike for, when you're fighting southpaw versus orthodox. His grappling is obviously where he shines. He's a big frame of a unit and, very muscular, very strong. He uses it to his advantage because he does muscle certain maneuvers, and this just helps to kind of extenuate his pressure at times. And to be honest, I don't really have an overly strong read on the guy. In his last fight with Turman down a weight class, he actually showed, decent submission defense to be able to defend against the standing body triangle and rear naked choke attempt, only to, go really hard at a submission and just fade and get armbar from guard, which is something you just don't see in high-level MMA. So just really confusing. Another example is the Ozdemir fight. So he charges Volkan. He lands, probably 4 or 5 really good, powerful hooks. Somehow Volkan manages to circle off the cage and just barely touches him behind the ear and drops Misha like it was a death touch. It's just really bizarre. Makes him super hard to be interested in as a fighter, really. He's taking on Alonzo Menifield in this fighter, who again is another fighter who is kind of hard to get an overall read on. I think he probably came into the UFC a little bit green, but you do really often see this with a lot of these contender series guys who are knocking out lower talent regularly. I quite like him on the feet. He's very, he's kind of slow, but he's powerful. He's pretty calculated for a big guy. He's got pretty good technical Muay Thai. He's got big, strong kicks, and he sets him up with straight shots. And he does have great killer instinct. His biggest issues and causes for the majority of his losses in his career can really be attributed to 2 main things. One is a lackluster gas tank, and the second is an inability to wrestle defensively, basically. In my opinion, the more we see Alonzo, the better both of these things do look, which you have to, as a fan of the sport, you have to enjoy seeing. He's a big, strong guy. He's decent up against the cage, but he can also be held there for a little bit long. He's also a little vulnerable to sneaky tie trips off the cage, but in general, he's pretty nice in the clinch, and he can be pretty dangerous there. I think if you kind of objectively look at his career, he is showing, a steady improvement with time. He's on an incline, whereas I'm not sure Misha is. They're the same ages, but I just don't think you can say that they're at the same place in their careers. On the ground, I do definitely think, Cirkunov is dangerous, especially very early. If he's able to get Alonzo down and get into an advantageous position, I do think there is a pretty decent skill disparity in the jiu-jitsu levels of the 2 men. But in saying that, Alonzo's been far more patient and calculated on the feet early. And I think if Cirkunov wants to rush and pressure Alonzo, I just don't think he's intelligent enough on the feet to set that up. His defense isn't good. It's going to get tested. And it's kind of just a certain archetype of fighter that Misha really consistently struggles with his career. And that's kind of the explosive power puncher who on the feet can use their straight shots and just put him down the pipe and worry him. In my opinion, Alonzo's kind of got all the tools to put Misha in trouble early on the feet. Just as Misha does to threaten submissions. I just kind of find it hard to see him getting in that range early without getting hurt. And, when Alonzo hurts you, he generally puts you away and finishes you. So decently confident in this one. But yeah, the pick's going to be Alonzo Menifield via TKO in round 1. So the next fight we're going to break down on this one is Askar Askarov, who's taking on Brandon Royval. So if you've been a fan of the channel for a while or fan of the Instagram page, you got to know that Brandon Royval, Raw Dog, he's one of our boys. We love him. We love when he fights. We love watching him. He's a G, man. He's so good to watch. And in saying that, Askarov's been a cash cow for us too. He's another one of our, favorite fighters in that division. And overall, Askarov is a primary wrestler who has had a big amount of dominating wins already in that flyweight division. He's built very strong for that class. He's a very technical grappler too. So you can combine that with his natural strength and it's a pretty scary combo. His game's very interesting to me. Like on the feet, he's okay. He mainly fights out of southpaw, but he switches decently regularly, I would say. And, he throws big kicks up the middle and body kicks and has okay hands, but in this matchup, I don't think he's going to, look to force that style of fight. He looks to close distance regularly, kind of however he can, whether it's, off a strike, coming in and closing distance or forcing clinch exchanges, shooting single legs or pressing his opponents up against the cage and working off the back of chain wrestling attempts. He's very, very adept at finding the back in scrambling scenarios using his strength. He's very sneaky at working to the back, but generally doesn't threaten submissions too much, I want to say. And I mean that in comparison to a guy like Royval or even Pantoja, who if they, get a single second where they're in an advantageous position, they will, look for that submission. Whereas Askarov is, very, very position over submission. I also have noticed, if you can really extend exchanges when on the ground, you can get the better of him, whether it's escaping attempts or even little, sneaky sweeps. There are little openings, and definitely for a slippery guy like Royval, I think there will, be openings for him. He's very good at finding single legs and working off these, whether it's just to grab it and kick the other leg out and land on top, or simply to kind of snuff exchanges out and restart where he wants it. He does seem to find that single leg pretty often. And on the feet, he's, I would say, pretty stationary. It's not a lot of movement or feints. He actually has a pretty nice jab. It's nice and straight down the pipe. And he kind of uses it to set up the cross, which again is kind of surprisingly nice for a main grappler. He's good at starting combos, letting you come in to counter, and then when you're kind of off balance or maybe overextended slightly, he'll shoot on you and just makes for an easier takedown or an easier grappling exchange. He's also pretty good at avoiding damage on the initial striking exchange. He'll slightly move just out of range and either restart or look to counter. So if you do want to have success against Askarov, it needs to be off combinations. If you have the ability to throw, quick, sharp inside or outside leg kicks, he can be fairly heavy on that lead leg, and he isn't very reactive to check. And this is also a lot safer strike when compared to a body or a head kick, where these high level guys will catch you or sweep you or just play into their ballpark a lot more. And his effectiveness as a fighter purely comes down to his chain wrestling and pressure ability. If he gets you down, he isn't necessarily going to keep you there. He doesn't have the greatest top pressure. So if you do have the ability to scramble, kind of threaten exchanges, keep moving positions, shrimp, hip out, without putting yourself overly at risk, and just push through and wear on him by, sprawling attempts or working overhooks or just using your legs as strength, you do have a pretty good chance at beating him. Now on to Royval. Like I said, this guy's a dog. He's wild. I love watching him fight because there's kind of just an easy period. He's always kind of moving, scrambling, he's just looking to win the fight, which you have to love. On the feet, I don't really know how to feel. Like, he fights out of southpaw. He's got pretty good Muay Thai with, he's got nice kicks, quick punches, pretty good volume, pretty good power. He's big for the division, long and rangy. He lacks a little on the accuracy front. And in terms of defense, it's a worry. He's got good length and reach, but I just don't think he uses it as well as he could have. He's 5'9", and that's pretty big for the flyweight division. In terms of his chin, it's not great. He's there to be hit a lot, but in saying that, he is durable. Like, he has good recovery time. Whether it's the way he kind of enters exchanges or the way he exits with it nice and high, he does get touched quite a lot and dropped. But in saying that, like I said, his recovery time's top notch, and somehow it works with his game. He gets dropped and then turns grappling exchanges into scrambles and ends up in an advantageous position. It's kind of bizarre, but against a really good grappler like Askarov, I just think that's a bad game plan. On the ground, he's just as wild as he is on the feet. Very threatening guard. Never wants to let the opponent on top work. He's always advancing position. He loses his legs very, very dangerously he's constantly switching hips or throwing submissions up off his back. He's very, very privy to giving his back up at times, which like I said, against these high-level guys, it's cost him, and it will continue to cost him if he keeps doing it. He also has this knack of ending up in these weird 3/4 back exchanges, and honestly, I really see him getting caught in a twister one day if he isn't careful. He's also got nice ground and pound off his back. He's always throwing elbows or just leaning up and punching and just trying to take the attention away, or get arms under the knees and threaten leg locks, or use leg strength to threaten triangles. And he's just very dangerous. But against the best guys, his constant want to go to these positions has really been his downfall. He's actually pretty good up against the cage. He uses his underhooks well, and he has very good positioning in the cage. When he does get caught, it seems to be like in the center of the octagon, when he's getting caught as he kicks or kind of dropped by punches. And his takedown defense is only I think it's 40% in the UFC, so it's not super good. He's unorthodox, he's gritty, and he's just intriguing to watch. And I think his unpredictability is kind of his best and his worst attribute at the same time. So how do I see this fight playing out? Firstly, kind of good luck to anyone who wants to use MMA math to figure this one out. They've both beat and lost to opposite guys, so it's never going to work. This is just a really interesting fight. Coming into this fight, I thought I would be a lot more confident in Askarov winning this fight than I am kind of after I've done tape and research. I think Royval will be the one moving forward and pressuring, kind of due to his ability to vary his strikes up, better output, and then in combination with his length and reach advantage. If he's able to be patient, I actually like his chances a lot more, but we just haven't seen any patience in his career so far, so I'm not expecting to see it yet. Askarov, he'll be aiming to close distance when Royval is attempting to counter, and I expect him to have a lot of success getting the fight down, but I don't know if he has the ability to kind of ride with the constant scrambling of Royval and the wildness. Askarov isn't overly smothering on the ground, and he hasn't showed a huge willingness to threaten submissions, which does help Royval's chances here. Askarov obviously has the wrestling and I would say the overall grappling edge, but in terms of who's more live to finish, it's Royval for me, even off his back. I also think the constant shifting of positions and inability to probably hold Royval down it'll draw at the gas tank of Askarov if this gets extended. It was a surprisingly tough fight to predict. I really don't think Royval will be able to submit Askarov, but in terms of capping this fight, I had it 55-45 Askarov, so due to grappling technicality and his pressure and his chain wrestling. But I wouldn't be surprised come Saturday, Sunday here in Australia if Royval is on our betting slip due to how live he is for finishes. We might look to play him decision no bet, so if it goes to decision, it pushes, but if he wins inside the distance, then we win. And I think he's probably a little bit over the odds, to be honest with you. But in saying that, I do think Askarov is going to be able to just pressure and chain wrestle and win minutes. The pick's going to be Askarov by UD, but it's not a confident side either way. So the next fight we're going to break down on this card, another really good one, Jonathan Martinez versus Cub Swanson. So let's start with the younger guy, Jonathan Martinez. I really like the overall game of Martinez. One of the first martial arts I ever watched, trained, got involved with was Muay Thai. So when I see, these very technical Muay Thai strikers with very heavy leg kicks and head kicks, I love watching him. I'm just biased. He's got good takedown defense. He's able to keep the fight in his range on the feet generally. On the feet, he's very, very technical. Got excellent snapping straight shots. He's on his hands are very limited in what he throws, and his game is built off the back of his kicks. In saying that, on the feet, his durability is and kind of always has been a worry to me. He has what looks to be fairly often bad weight cuts very consistently, and we've seen him drop too many times for me to be confident and finish in the UFC. He fights mainly out of southpaw, but he does spend time switching, kind of depending on what he's coming up against as a fighter. You know, I really like Factory X, their Muay Thai style. You can tell that they just pick up a lot from each other in camp. You know, and what I mean by that as well is Martinez's teammate, Chris Gutierrez, came up against Vince Morales, chewed his legs up with leg kicks. Martinez came into that fight in a mainly orthodox stance, which is not generally his thing, but he did it on purpose so he would have that outside leg kick, fully took advantage of it, and that won him the fight. So they're a clever camp. They learn a lot of each other, and they have a very distinct style, which I enjoy watching. As I said, they all tend to chew the lead leg of their opponent up, get them conditioned to, you know, expecting that low kick, then they'll take it high. It's really excellent technical stuff. He's, like I said, his hands are okay, not a lot of variety. If he's going forward, it's kind of only really the cross and the jab to set up his kicks. And if he's moving backwards, it's mainly check hooks and pretty wild uppercuts sometimes that are aiming to counter rushing opponents coming in. Even though he's the one leading the dance generally, his output and volume isn't kind of significant enough to be really, really dominant. He's kind of always, when the fight goes to decision, in that 80 significant strike range, which isn't great. He throws knees up the middle, flying knees, and they're very, very sharp and timed really well. But I like it for more than the technicality. It's just a perfect deterrent from people shooting on him, as well as, you know, coming straight down as they roll shots. It's to get in the back of the brain and make the opponent think. Yeah, his defense is okay. Generally, we try to hand fight in different stances to eliminate the lead hand of his opponent. And from there, he'll parry subsequent shots. He slips okay, but there isn't an awful lot of head movement from his side, more just kind of distancing out and then re-engaging. He can be a touch slow when moving, and this paired with the fact that he's kind of always on a straight line as he moves backwards means that he can be caught with switch combos moving forward, like the Davey Grant KO. Specifically, hooks kind of worrying to kind of given his high tie guard and his want to get those hands out and parry, just means that he can be caught around the corner sometimes. In terms of striking volumes, the output's decent, but it's not excellent. And in saying that, I do think Cub will probably likely have the output advantage. Martinez isn't, you know, overly powerful, but his power is built off the back of his technique. Out of southpaw against a defensively unorthodox fighter like Swanson, I do think his feints are really going to lose or win the fight for him here. I think if he can dictate the range, use the teep wisely to hold range, keep it in his kickboxing range and lead with the more significant strikes, I think is his best opportunity. You know, he's far more successful when he dictates where the fight takes place and how the pace of the fight is. Cub Swanson, important to note in this one, he's coming down to 135 for this fight at 38 years of age. Interesting late career move, and one that we generally see doesn't really benefit the fighter moving down, especially one who was already pretty lean, shredded like Cubs. It's kind of a bizarre move to me because he hasn't been on like a terrible run, and he's probably past the age of competing at the highest level, which is kind of confusing to me. Stands out of orthodox with the hands, very, very low style, likes to stalk and pressure you backwards, engage with single shots, and then, you know, move off center line with angles and fight with quick, sharp combinations. He has a pretty excellent mix of speed and power and variety in his strikes. He's not, you know, known for knocking people out, but his striking ability is really impressive, and it's kind of built off the back of his pressure and feints. He's very, very confident moving forward and will often engage with, you know, switch combinations to close distance quicker, which, as I said, it's been a major weakness for Martinez. He's very heavy set on that lead leg, and he has a hard time adjusting to kicking styles in the past. Giga put it on him early. Pineda had a lot of success early with the leg kicks out of orthodox. I think for the most part defensively, he's pretty good besides having that hands low style. It's good for entertainment, but, you know, he's very reactive, and he leans on his head movement and his ability to cut angles and forwards and backwards, get off center line to stay safe. But the main drawback of this style is that you're very heavy on the legs, and although your head might be out of range and out of the way, your body and legs are in range. So, if your opponent's smart, he'll be finishing combos with kicks, like most Muay Thai style guys will, and they'll be the ones finishing exchanges with the final strikes and staying in the judge's head as well as scoring more. Cub, for the most part of his career, has been pretty durable. He's been finished a bit, but it's generally via submission, and going down a weight class may, severely compromise this. I'll be honest, this is a really tough fight again to predict, because I actually see paths to victory for both of these men. If I'm on the Martinez side, I want a technical, methodical kickboxing match, starting with straight shots, throw the knee up the middle, the teep down the middle too. Just dissuade Cub from rolling and dipping his head too much down the middle. And then I'm starting to chew the legs of Cub up while staying out of boxing range, basically. If I'm on the Swanson side, I'm constantly moving, I'm throwing feints, I'm exploding into boxing range with those switch stance combos to catch that defensive deficiency of Martinez and just kind of make this an ugly, scrappy fight. This is one that I will definitely be waiting to see what they both look like on the scale for some guidance. And I think whichever side that is probably the right side to be on. I capped this fight actually at 50-50, and I think Cub moving down is just, is a weird one to me. I think he has all the tools and the styles to beat Martinez. So I'm going to hope and assume that the cut is beneficial, and I'm going to side with the value of Swanson. But complete transparency, if I see Cub struggle on the scales, he looks terrible, I'll be flipping this pick, and I'll post it on the Instagram so no one gets up in arms about it. But for now, I'm going to assume it's going well, it goes well, and I think Cub might catch him on the feet. So I'm going to take Cub Swanson via TKO in round 2. Last fight now, we're going to break down the main event, which we have Alexa Grasso taking on Viviane Araujo. So let's start with Grasso. She's got the, beautiful Mexican boxing style, very calm and composed on the feet. Not a lot of movement, not very reactive, high boxing guard. When she attacks, she's very, very good at getting her head off center line, and she elongates her reach very, very well with straight shots. She's got nice, crisp boxing combos. She shows really good head movement at times, and most of the time when you do see that good head movement, it is when her opponents, start winging and looping punches that she just, rolls very nicely with. She's got beautiful combos in, I would say, almost every situation. Attacking her opponent forward, she'll always start with that straight shot, and defensively countering while moving back, she shows really good uppercuts, which are followed by the hook, which I love throwing as a combo. And in terms of technique, is just beautiful. She is a little small for the division, but I think she is working her frame and getting there. But in the past, it means she's had the ability to kind of be out-wrestled, out-grappled, and exploited on the canvas. But I do really think that she's made this evident and focused on it for a while now. And she's shown pretty big improvements in the area, I would say. Submitting Joanne Calderwood/Wood it's cool and all, but I don't exactly think it's a huge feat. But in saying that, it is a good sign. I did like how she was able to kind of negate the wrestling strength of Barber, who is a big, thick, strong, sorry, thick is a weird word to say, but thick chick for the division, and, fight for underhook control in order to get her back off the fence. She's just a smart fighter. Also in that Barber fight, she pulled off a really, really nice grappling sequence. She threw the armbar out of guard. She then used it to sweep to top position and then transitioned to the arm triangle to a back take and then threatened a rear naked choke. It was really beautiful stuff, really smooth. She's much improved on the mat, which you like to see in your fighters. She also has pretty decent footwork, which kind of allows her to keep the fight in her range. And, like I said, good entries, good exit. I just like her overall game. She's coming up here against Viviane Araujo, so, decently well-rounded fighter for the most part. She's, I would say, pretty powerful. Outside the UFC, definitely more powerful than she's shown inside the UFC, all things considered. But just looking at her frame and build, you can see she's quite muscly. She's built well for the division. For a smaller female, she's very, very strong. She holds a decent amount of power on the feet, likes to pressure you backwards and use her hands to get you covering up or thinking up top, and then she'll shoot and engage. Very well-timed takedowns from there. very good grappling, and on top she's very good at holding those advantageous positions and making it just hard and annoying to get back to your feet. On the feet early, she actually looks pretty good. Feints level changes, moves her attacks up head and body very, very well. Nice straight shots, steps in for a very, very solid left rip to the body. That's a nice shot that I noticed that she throws. Pretty limited kicking game, but her hands are decent early. A combo that she throws a lot, and one that Grasso needs to really watch out for given her style of defense, is the double jab step in right overhand. Throws it very heavy, and if you stay on center line, she'll catch you clean and hurt you bad. The thing with Araujo is that she just cannot maintain her tempo. She has maybe 2 good solid rounds in her, and then if her opponent's making her work hard for those takedowns, making her work hard in general, getting back to the feet consistently and just making things difficult and ugly, she fades as the fight goes on. And over 5 rounds, that's a huge concern. After she gasses out, offensively, she starts to blitz into range without setting things up, and her straight shots are now turned into looping shots, which against intelligent strikers is just never going to do well. Defensively, things are good until they aren't. Comes back to the cardio. When she's fresh, she's pretty good. Nice head movement, good range control, keep fights where she likes them. However, when she starts to gas, she's very, very hittable, vulnerable to jabs and just combos in the pocket, given how slow she can be to get the hands back to the head. It's a bit of a catch-22 because, her best attribute is how explosive she is, and using explosions to close distance shoot on her opponents, but kind of the more she does it, the quicker she fades and the opponent takes over. So it's a bit of a tricky one. I find it hard to want to side with Araujo here. She's definitely the more physical fighter, but if she has to overexert herself, muscle positions, we will just not, we're not going to see the same fighter in round 3 as we saw in round 1, and that makes it really difficult to pick. I think Grasso is durable enough on the feet to, potentially withstand that early pressure. And I'm hoping her ground ability has, keeping on improving to a level that she can just negate grappling exchanges on the canvas. I think the longer it spends on the feet, the more, straight shots that Araujo is going to wear, and the more Araujo punches are going to start to loop, and Grasso is going to take over by, rolling under, throwing combos. If this was over 3, I would probably be looking to be on the Araujo side. But given it's a main event, 5 rounds, I do like Grasso's chances. So I think the odds are probably a bit wide. I think it's closer than the odds would indicate, and I would not be playing Grasso at that price. But I do think she's the side to be on. So yeah, the pick's going to be Alexa Grasso via unanimous decision. So that wraps up the breakdown for UFC Vegas 62. Guys, thanks for watching as always. Just a heads up, every Saturday we send out our betting card for the weekend for free over on our Instagram. The tag will be here. We're actually up 71 units for the year, which is pretty huge and something that I wasn't kind of fully aware of. Obviously we track, but to look at it long term like that, it's just such a nice thing to see that, your hard work is coming to fruition. We give it out for free. So yeah, head over to the Instagram. We put up a story saying reply to this, DM if you want the pics, and then we send them across. So yeah, head over there. Also our last video UFC 280 preview, I'll put a card up here if you haven't seen it. It's done amazing. It's got 15k views, which is obviously the most we've ever had. Blown up our subscribers. When I say blown up, almost doubled our subscriber base. So if you came from that video, we really appreciate you. Stay tuned because we're going to do more of that style of content. We're just working towards it. So yeah, appreciate anyone who's stuck around this long, and yeah, really looking forward to the future of this channel. It's going really well, and yeah, I love this sport, so we're going to be hanging around. Also, last thing I'm going to mention before I start waffling, I'm going to do a UFC 280 fight companion, so I'll make sure I put a post on the Instagram and you'll see it scheduled in here. But yeah, stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. It's on in Australia at starts at midnight and then ends at 6 a.m. So if you want to see some, potentially drunk and more so delirious blokes in a room giving each other shit while watching the fights, come and hang out. We'll probably do a giveaway on the night too, but you'll see more of that as well. But yeah, that's enough waffle for me. Who are you guys riding with? We'd love to know. Leave your picks in the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one, guys.